They say the dead rest in peace. But in this cemetery, the dead are still awake. If you visit these graves today with a Geiger counter, the machine will scream. Because the women buried here are not just skeletons. They are radioactive light bulbs. This is the true story of the Radium Girls, the women who were paid to swallow a nuclear bomb. It began in 1917. The world was burning in the fires of the Great War. Soldiers in the trenches were fighting in pitch-black darkness. They needed to see time to survive. The solution was a new magical paint called Undark, a mix of radium and glue. Suddenly, radium wasn't just for war. It became the most expensive substance on Earth. Radium water was the energy drink of the rich. Liquid sunshine. Doctors claimed it would cure cancer, blindness, and even restore youth. But the real demand was for the watch dials, and they needed delicate hands. Hundreds of young girls were hired. To them, it wasn't a factory. It was a studio. The work was precise. The dials were tiny. The brushes were too coarse. So the supervisors taught them a deadly technique. Lip, dip, paint. Put the brush in your mouth to sharpen it. Swallow the dust. They were swallowing a nuclear bomb, one tiny lick at a time. By the end of the shift, the girls were no longer just factory workers. Covered in radioactive dust from head to toe, they were known as the Ghost Girls. They wore their best dresses to work, just so the fabric would shine at night. For fun, one girl painted her teeth to surprise her boyfriend in the dark. They laughed, unaware that the magic was actually gamma radiation blasting their cells. 1922. The laughter stopped. The first shadow fell over the studio. It started with fatigue, a bone-deep tiredness that sleep couldn't cure. Then came the aches, not in the muscles, but deep inside the skeleton. Molly Maggia was the first to fall. She complained of a simple toothache. She went to the dentist to have the tooth pulled. It should have been routine. The dentist touched the tooth, and it simply fell out. No pulling required. He was confused. The gums weren't healing. They were rotting. Soon, the tooth next to it fell out. Then the next. Molly was in agony. Her breath smelled of death. Her jaw was swelling. The doctor diagnosed her with rheumatism. Then pyorrhea. They were guessing. Finally, a specialist tried to treat the infection in her jawbone. He reached into her mouth to remove the abscess. And the horror began. The jawbone broke. It snapped like a dry twig under his fingers. He removed her entire lower jaw. It had turned to ash. Molly Maggia died at age 24. Her death certificate said syphilis. It was a lie. A calculated lie to ruin her reputation and hide the truth. The company president, Arthur Roeder, knew the paint was dangerous. He never licked the brushes. In the lab, men wore lead aprons. But the girls, they were told it would put roses in their cheeks. Soon, other girls began to crumble. Grace Fryer's spine began to collapse. Their bones were honeycombed with holes. They were breaking under their own weight. The Ghost Girls were now the living dead. They decided to sue. But who would fight a giant corporation? Enter Raymond Barry, a lawyer who wasn't afraid of the dark. The trial became a media sensation. The press called them the Legion of the Doomed. The company used every dirty trick. They delayed the trial for months. Their strategy was simple: wait for the witnesses to die. And it worked. The girls were fading fast. Grace Fryer couldn't even raise her hand to take the oath. Finally, under immense pressure, the company settled out of court. It wasn't justice. It was hush money, just enough to pay for their funerals. The girls had won the argument, but they lost their lives. Grace Fryer died in 1933. She weighed only 60 pounds. One by one, the Legion of the Doomed was buried. The company hoped the story was buried with them. But rhodium doesn't die. Radium has a half-life of 1,600 years. The girls were gone, but their bones were still fighting. Decades later, scientists needed to know the truth. They ordered an exhumation. They dug up the grave of Molly Maggia 50 years after she died. What they found inside the coffin shocked the scientific world. Her flesh had turned to dust, but her skeleton was intact. And it was hot. The radiation levels were so high, the bones were glowing in the grave. They took the bones to a lab. They didn't need an X-ray machine. The bones were their own X-ray source. They placed them on photographic film. The radiation from the bones exposed the film, creating a perfect image of the dead. This is an actual autoradiograph of a Radium Girl's bone. The radium had replaced the calcium so completely, the bones were the poison. Even inside the lead-lined coffin, the radiation was leaking out. They had to be reburied in concrete vaults to protect the living. Grace Fryer wanted her body to be used for science to help others. Because of their sacrifice, scientists learned how to handle nuclear material. Without the Radium Girls, the Manhattan Project workers might have all died. They were the canaries in the coal mine for the atomic age. Today, their legacy is written in the laws of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. The right to sue your employer for safety violations exists because of them. Without the suffering of the Radium Girls, the atomic age might have been even deadlier. During World War II, scientists developing the atomic bomb studied the girls' medical records intensely. They realized that even tiny amounts of radioactive material could be catastrophic over time. Because of Grace Fryer and Molly Maggia, workers handling plutonium were given protective gear. They were the canaries in the coal mine for the entire 20th century. Their legal battle changed the course of history for every worker in America. Before them, companies could kill workers with no consequences. Today, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, exists largely because of their sacrifice. The right to know what poisons you are working with is their legacy. They died in darkness so that we could work in the light. The old U.S. radium factory in New Jersey is now a Superfund cleanup site. Even 80 years later, the soil around the building was deadly radioactive. It cost taxpayers millions of dollars to clean up the mess that made the company rich. But what about the girls themselves? The humans behind the headlines? They loved to dance. They wanted families. They had dreams. All of it was stolen for a few cents an hour. Today, their graves are quiet. But physics does not sleep. Radium-226 has a half-life of 1,600 years. That means their bones will not stop being radioactive until the year 3600 AD. Long after our civilization is forgotten, the Radium Girls will still be shining. They are the silent sentinels of the atomic age, a warning beacon buried 6 feet under. So the next time you see something glow in the dark, remember them. Remember the price paid for a moment of shine. The glow never fades.